Good morning. For those who haven't met us, I am Ray Hutchinson. This is my wife, Maggie. We have 3 daughters here in the third row. Emily is 12, Irene is 10, and Ariel is 5. We are with Missionary Flights International. I'm a pilot mechanic, but I haven't actually started down there yet, as I just graduated from school in August, and we are now making the rounds, visiting churches in Maine to share what God is doing in our lives and what He's been doing with Missionary Flights International for the last 60 years. So we appreciate you having us come visit. We were here in December, I think. I meant to look it up, but month and a half ago we stopped in, and Pastor gave us a couple of minutes just to say hello and introduce us, and then invited us back today for an opportunity to share our whole presentation with you. So Missionary Flights International operates out of Fort Pierce, Florida. They have 4 airplanes, currently 3 on the line, and 1 more is coming on the line off the paint shop here in the next month or 2. You can see their mission statement here. I'm going to read a little bit of a variation of it. I like what the founder said about the company, the organization, better. MFI is a technical mission providing air support to Bible-centered missions, but really MFI is about people and their relationship to Jesus Christ.
So this is a picture of Don Belding. He is the founder of MFI, and he had been taking his one small airplane down to the Caribbean for Youth for Christ rallies, and missionaries down there saw him returning. They saw him going and coming back repeatedly, and so they started asking him to bring them things because they needed things that they couldn't get easily. And so he agreed, and that was how MFI sort of started. And since then, MFI has grown. They have the 2 big airplanes plus the 3rd one that's coming. They have 1 smaller airplane, and they serve over 600 missionary organizations in the Caribbean.
So the primary aircraft that we use is a DC-3. These were used in World War II as C-47s, and then in the 90s they were modified to be the DC-3 variant, and then in the early 2000s they upgraded the engines, so they have turboprop engines now. As Maggie said, they have there's 2 there on the line. They spent the last 10 years, I think, getting a 3rd one ready. Just the last year, they were hung up waiting on the government because they need a little tin plate on the side that has the model number on it. And out in Washington, they couldn't find someone to just stamp the letters in. So just, I think it was in October maybe that they finally got that cleared. They moved the airplane to the paint shop down in Orlando. And so they're excited to get that on the line within the next month or 2. And then in addition to that, we have a smaller airplane. I mentioned that I am a pilot and a mechanic. So if we are down in Haiti or Dominican Republic and the airplane breaks down, then we'll use that smaller aircraft to fly parts down, and we can fix the airplane down there.
So the Great Commission, right?
A little lower.
Sorry. Says, to go ye into all the world and preach the gospel, right? And that can be anywhere, wherever you are. And for a long time, we kind of were just sort of blooming where you're planted, sort of, right? Ray was doing truck driving, I was working in the public school system, and we were just sort of, serving where we could, where we were. And I still believe that is definitely part of it. But then God called us. He said, I'm going to uproot you and plant you in Florida. So we're going to be down in Florida.
So I grew up in a Christian household. My mom was very intentional about introducing us to the different ministries that would come around. Anytime that a missionary visited a local church, then we'd go out and hear about what their ministry was. And so I had ideas of what being a missionary looked like. usually full time. You move to a third world country and you start an orphanage or you're a pastor. Um, and so I think of people like Gladys Aylward, who traveled the world and ended up in China, George Mueller, and with the orphanage, I looked up to him for his faith, thinking about when he would pray over breakfast and there was no food on the table, but he would thank God for the food that was yet to be provided. And then no sooner had he finished praying and God provided it. And then a few others, Jim and Elizabeth Saint, um, Jim and Elizabeth Elliott and Nate Saint down in Ecuador. Um, and I think you're probably familiar with the five men who went in and they were killed by the Indians, or natives rather, and Aucas. And then the women were able to go back in. God was able to use that to turn the lives around of everyone there. Um, but they couldn't have gone out if they didn't know where they were. And they found out where they were by Nate Saint flying a little airplane out over the jungles. So my role isn't to be a public speaker. It's not to be a pastor or a preacher by words. God's given me the technical skill and provided a way to through the training so that we could support the people who have been called to those front lines. Maggie mentioned that MFI is partnered with over 600 organizations. They are down there doing the work in the Caribbean, primarily in Haiti. We also go to Dominican Republic and the Bahamas, a few other smaller places. With this third airplane coming online, we're hoping to expand further. They've talked about Central America being a possibility. So a little bit about my background. When I was 18, started college. I went to Daniel Webster College in southern New Hampshire. I was a flight student there. The timing wasn't right, I guess, because I wasn't able to finish my training there to even get the private pilot's license. And so I left aviation, became a truck driver, IT manager, insurance agent. I drove a taxi cab for a little while. Quite the variety there. But in 2019, came back around to flying, tried private lessons, went for the private pilot test down in southern Maine, did not pass. Again, timing wasn't quite right. And so each time that happened, I'm looking at, I was looking at missionary aviation, then I was looking at commercial aviation. Maybe that's not the path for me. So after the 2019 occasion of not passing, I started thinking about, well, I'm out of money. I can't really pursue aviation. It's pretty expensive. I was talking to the military about re-enlisting. Maybe I get them to pay for it. But I went on a missionary trip to Tanzania in 2022. And on that trip, I felt like God had impressed upon me that I was going to fly, but I was going to fly for Him. I had tried the college route, I had tried the private lessons, and those didn't seem to work out for me. So I had known about a school in Michigan, which is a School of Missionary Aviation Technology. The entire purpose of their school is to train up Christian aviators and mechanics to go out into the world and share the gospel. And so I came home from that trip in Tanzania and I told Maggie what I was feeling. And within 6 months, we had visited the school, put our house up for sale. We were under contract, and I was in Michigan starting school. So I did 12 months there as a maintenance student, graduated with certificates. I did another 12 months in the flight program. And 18 years after I started my flight training, I was able to graduate with my commercial and instrument ratings. So that's graduation. So God was able to bring us out there for the training, but we still didn't know where He was going to take us from there. And because of their affiliation with all the different missionary programs out there, the organizations, they would invite them in, and each one would share with us, sometimes 2 times during the year, sometimes once. And so we get to know a lot more of what organizations were available, and we had staff there that loved to help us and pray with us, share with us. And so it was while we were there that we were introduced to Missionary Flights International. And so we were let's see, I'll talk too much, so I'll pass it off to Maggie.
All right. So in April, this past April, we went down and visited Missionary Flights International, and they had us there for about a week so we could get a feel for what the mission did, the organization. And the girls, we've been homeschooling the girls, so we took homeschool stuff with us. And we went and we visited a bunch of different things. And so this is some of the girls, pictures of the girls enjoying things. So Emily's at the beach, Ariel is swimming. We had some friends there that had the mermaid tail, which she thought was wonderful. And then Irene is actually holding a 12-year-old alligator. Little fun fact, we learned that alligators are like goldfish. They only grow to the size of their container. So because he was raised in captivity, he never got any bigger than that.
So during our visit, we were able to see what my role would encompass as a pilot, as a mechanic, and then the pilots are also the package handlers, and they are also sometimes the flight attendants. And so I was able to ride along on the DC-3, which was very exciting for me. I found out a while back that my grandfather had flown the C-47s in World War II. And so I was able to ride along in them. And then ultimately we felt like God was leading us to join. So I'll get to fly more or less the same aircraft as my grandfather. But on this flight, because I had my passport, they were able to let me go along on a ride down to Haiti. And this was before the latest breakout of violence down there. But we were in the northern part of the country anyway. We flew out of Fort Pierce down into Cap-Haïtien. In Cap-Haïtien, they said the immigration, if they see you, they're going to want you to file paperwork. We know that you want to go back to Florida at the end of the day, but they don't. So if they want you to do paperwork, then they're going to charge you money in order to do the paperwork for them to file the paperwork. And we don't need to pay all of that. So you stay in the cockpit while we're here on the ground in Cap-Haïtien. And the plan from there is to fly over the mountains to Pignon, and then swap passengers, cargo, fly back to Cap-Haïtien, and then back to the U.S. So we were there in Cap-Haïtien the first time. They shut down the engines. It was over 100 degrees outside. And once the engines are off, then the air stops flowing. And so the pilots disappear out the back, and I'm sitting there sweating. And the pilot had left his headset turned on with music on. So I had something to do besides just sweat. I appreciated that. But it is kind of like a tin can sitting in the sun like that. So for a little while there, I was not entirely enjoying it. And then the pilots came back out front after they had unloaded the cargo, and they were drenched in sweat, and I didn't feel quite so bad. So then we hopped the mountains, went over to Pignon. It took us about 10 minutes. They said that given the terrain there, if the people had opted to drive the route, it would have taken 4.5 hours. So we swapped passengers there, flew back to Cap-Haïtien, and returned to the U.S. It's really interesting looking at the ocean from 12,000 feet when you're flying over the Bahamas. You can actually see the lines in the sand underneath the water. It's very clear down there. So of the 600 organizations, MFI has produced a number of different videos sharing what some of those organizations do. And so we have a video from one of those organizations telling a little bit about what they have done, and then also how MFI has supported them. So we'll watch that next.
What I see probably it will be different than that way other people see it. Haiti is like a spiritual needs. It's not like money needs. It's mostly spiritual, because when people know what the gospel says, things will change, and so the needs of this country is not a problem of money for Haiti. It's a spiritual problem. And when you see, I started the year 2005, and there was a huge voodoo ceremony in our community. And I felt like maybe I should go out there and talk to those people in that ceremony. There was one of the people that worked for us. He said, "No, you're not going out there because it's too dangerous for you to go. If you go there, you can get killed." And I said, no, I'll just go there. And then one other guy said, "What's on us is more powerful. Jesus is with us. Why can't we go?" And we went out there, and there were more than 50 people worshiping there. Beat up the drums, and we go there, and they said, "Talk quick because you stop our ceremony." And I opened my Bible and read John 3:16 to 18. I put in two pieces. Those who believe, this is what Jesus are. Those who don't, and I pray. They all fold up their drums and went back home. And since that day, God changed the whole community. No more voodoo drums. Actually, 29 ex-witch doctors now are worshiping with us. They are Christian today. It's amazing what the Lord has done. It's because of what you guys allowed us and other missionaries to be able to stay in Haiti. There was no way some of the people, there was no food, or there was no nothing they couldn't say, but you helped really to get that done and done well. And then, yeah, so this is the beginning of our community change. Now, today, there is no more voodoo drums. It's all gone because of what Jesus has done to us.
Of course, that's only one community. There's still quite a lot of voodoo prevalent in Haiti. And of course, in the news recently, you've seen all of the gang violence. So there's still very much a need in Haiti for the missionary organization.
So we are, as I mentioned, we are traveling around Maine. We are primarily in Western Maine at this point. My mom's house is in Peru, and Maggie's parents live up in Chester, so we are frequently coming up and visiting. And what we're really looking for at this point is to connect with people. Yes, it's a fundraising time for us, but God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, and it's up to Him to provide for us. And so we're called to come and share with you what has done through our life and continues to do through our life, and then also what God is doing through Missionary Flights International. So we are looking to get together with people. We especially love getting together with friends who have kids. The girls love making new friends. They've got a couple new best friends since being back in Maine. But looking to have time of fellowship, having coffee together, or sharing a meal. And then in addition to that, on the fundraising side, there is a little bit of training that I have left to do. So I was able to get my commercial and instrument ratings for single engine aircraft. You see that the What We Fly has 2 engines, and it is a tail dragger. So because there's a tail wheel on there, then I have the multi-engine rating to get and the tail wheel endorsement. Both of those combined are $5,000 to $6,000. So we know that God's going to provide that, just a matter of when. And then we are looking for to partner with you, not just financially, but also in prayer. And it is helpful when people will share with us what they are committing to. As MFI will let us know, but it takes time for them to process everything. We are currently 45% funded, which I hear is actually very impressive in Maine, since we've only been back for about 4 months. We have some friends, actually one of my dad's cousins is a pastor, and he said it took him 2.5 years when he was fundraising, and never even broke double digits. So we definitely see God working. He's providing income for us. He's providing a place for us to stay. And he's provided the connections for us to come and share with you what he's doing in other parts of the world. So we're intend to be at the back after the service. We've got some things set up on the table. All of those things are free for you to take. One of them is our prayer card. We'd ask that you just put that up somewhere that you would see us and remember to say prayers for us. That is the most important thing that you could do for us. And then if you're interested in getting together, talking with us after today, then also take one of our little business cards. This has our phone numbers and email on it. And on the back side, it also has the QR codes to use your phone if you wish to connect with the MFI webpage that has our little bio on it. And then the other QR code, they're same ones as is on the screen here. It's to follow us through our newsletter, which we try to release every 3 months over email. So that's what we have to share with you today. I'll turn it back over to the pastor, and we thank you for having us.